He stood there in the pouring rain, outside the very place where his life began, an old orphanage crumbling with time. In his hand, a weathered photo of two children, smiling under a tree, unaware of the world's cruel twists. That boy became Marcus Hale, the elusive billionaire tech mogul no one truly knew. But before the wealth, before the boardrooms and headlines, there was only one promise he ever cared to keep. "I'll come back for you, Sarah. I swear." 20 years have passed. She's still there, but she no longer recognizes him. Not the suit, not the fame, not the man. And so, he made a choice, one that would change both of their lives forever. But what happened next changed everything. The rain had turned to mist, but Marcus Hale sat motionless in the back seat of his black Bentley, just 2 blocks from the orphanage. The building loomed in the distance, old, worn down, quiet. He could see the faint glow of lights inside. She was still here. He hadn't planned this far. 20 years of silence. And now he was parked near the only place that had ever felt like home, unsure how to walk through that gate. He looked down at his hands. Impeccably clean. A silver watch glinted under his cuff. This man didn't belong there. Not anymore. He reached for the photo again. 2 children. Barefoot. Grinning. Covered in mud. Marcus couldn't remember what they were laughing about that day. But he remembered the promise. "I'll come back for you, Sarah. I promise." He'd meant it. And then life happened. Adoption. Relocation. Ambition. And somewhere along the way, Sarah became part of a past too painful to revisit. Until now. He found her name last month in an old news article about underfunded orphanages. The photo stopped him cold. Sarah, grown up but unmistakable, standing beside a broken swing set, still fighting for the place they once called home. He'd stared at that image for hours. She had kept her promise. And now it was his turn. But walking in as Marcus Hale, billionaire tech mogul, wasn't going to bring her any comfort. No. That man represented everything she resented. Everything that left her behind. He needed a different way in. One that let her see him without the walls between them. That's when the idea hit him. Not a plan. Not a strategy. A decision. He was going to erase Marcus Hale. At least for a while. He grabbed his phone and made 2 quiet calls. One to cancel all public appearances for the next 2 weeks. And one to his personal assistant, Oliver. "I need a place to crash off-grid. No questions." Oliver hesitated. "Are you sure about this?" "I've never been more sure of anything." A beat of silence. Then, "You'll have it within the hour." Marcus hung up. Then leaned forward and opened the duffel bag on the floor. Inside, old jeans, a flannel shirt, boots with holes in the soles. He pulled off the Rolex. Unbuttoned the shirt. Folded his blazer carefully. Every movement felt surreal. He hadn't dressed like this in years. Hadn't felt vulnerable like this since the night they were separated. By the time he looked in the rearview mirror again, he barely recognized himself. His hair was damp. Face unshaven. Shadows under his eyes. He looked tired. But real. He left the car on a side street and walked through the drizzle. With every step, Marcus disappeared and Mike took his place. There was no press. No fanfare. No one watching. Just a man with a promise to keep. When he reached the edge of the orphanage property, he didn't approach the front gate. Not yet. He stood in the shadows, watching the silhouette of someone moving inside. Maybe it was her. Maybe it was Sarah. But he wasn't ready. Tomorrow, he thought. Tomorrow Mike will knock. The sun rose gently, casting golden light across the cracked pavement of the orphanage courtyard. Birds chirped in the trees overhead, and the sound of laughter echoed faintly from inside. Sarah stepped outside with a broom in hand, her hair pulled back in a messy bun, eyes tired but focused. It was early and she liked it that way, before the chaos, before the noise. She walked toward the garden, intending to check on the pipes that had leaked again last night. But then she stopped. There, curled up beneath the old oak tree, was a man. He looked rough, unkempt hair, scruffy beard, torn jacket. A duffel bag sat beside him, soaked at the bottom. Sarah tensed instinctively, grip tightening on the broom handle. She took a cautious step forward. "Hello." The man stirred, groaning softly. He slowly sat up, blinking against the morning light. Sarah saw his face more clearly now. He looked worn down but not dangerous. "I'm sorry," he said, rubbing his eyes. "Didn't mean to trespass. I just needed somewhere dry." "This isn't exactly dry," she muttered, glancing at the dew-covered grass. He gave a tired smile. "Was better than the street." She hesitated. Something about him felt familiar. Not his face. That was hidden behind tired eyes and stubble. But the way he spoke, soft, careful. "Are you from around here?" she asked. "No," he said, then paused. "Not in a long time." "What's your name?" "Mike." She waited as if expecting more. He didn't offer it. "I'm Sarah," she said finally. He looked up. "I figured," he replied gently. She frowned. "You looked like you ran the place." Sarah relaxed slightly but didn't drop her guard. "Look," she said, "we don't usually take people in. We're barely scraping by as it is." "I understand. But—" She looked at the broken garden hose still lying in a tangled mess from yesterday's storm. "If you're handy, we could use some help." Mike followed her gaze. "I can fix that." "You say that now." "I used to do repairs," he said quickly. "Before everything." "Everything?" He didn't answer. And she didn't press. She watched him stand up slowly, brushing dirt off his jeans. He winced slightly, his back clearly stiff from the ground. She noticed the way he moved, cautious like someone used to pain. "Come inside," she said finally. "You can shower. And we'll find you something to eat." Mike blinked, surprised. "You don't even know me." "No," she admitted. "But the kids don't need to see someone sleeping outside their window." He nodded, quietly grateful. Inside, the hallway smelled faintly of soap and old wood. Children's drawings lined the walls, crayon rainbows and stick figures with missing teeth. Sarah handed him a towel and pointed toward the staff bathroom. "There's some spare clothes in the closet," she said. "They might not fit perfectly. Better than nothing." She turned to leave, then paused. "You fix that hose and maybe we'll talk about letting you stay a few nights." Mike nodded. "Thank you." Sarah didn't smile, but her voice softened. "Don't make me regret it." An hour later, Mike emerged clean-shaven, wearing a faded t-shirt and jeans that were slightly too short. He looked more human. Less ghost. Sarah was surprised how young he seemed now, maybe mid-30s. She handed him a plate with toast and scrambled eggs. "Don't get used to this," she warned. "We're not a bed and breakfast." He chuckled. "Understood." As he ate, she watched from the kitchen. There was something still off. Not dangerous. Just distant. Like he was here but not really. "You said you did repairs?" she asked casually. "What kind?" "Mostly residential," he replied. "Pipes, wiring, fences. I pick up what I can." His answers were vague. But they weren't lies. Sarah didn't fully trust him, but she didn't feel threatened either. That was rare. After breakfast, Mike went straight to the garden hose. It wasn't just tangled, it was cracked. He crouched beside it, examining the line, then wandered to the shed for parts. Sarah watched from the window. He moved with quiet efficiency. Within 20 minutes, the hose was working again. When he tested it, water sprayed out clean and even. A few kids clapped from inside. Sarah stepped outside. "You weren't lying," she said. Mike smiled. "Thanks for the chance. You planning to stick around?" He paused. "Maybe." She crossed her arms. "Well, the plumbing's worse inside." He looked up. "I'm good with worse." And for the first time in a long while, Sarah smiled. Just a little. But it was real. By the third day, the children had stopped whispering about the strange man who fixed the hose. They were too busy following him around. Mike didn't say much. He kept his head down, focused on repairs, door hinges, window locks, leaky sinks. But the kids noticed everything. They noticed he never raised his voice. That he always listened, really listened, when they talked. That he remembered their names even when they only told him once. Especially Emma. 8 years old. Tiny. Sharp as a tack. She was the first to offer him a crayon drawing. A crooked picture of Mr. Mike fixing a broken shelf, surrounded by stick-figure children. He didn't know what to say. He just knelt down and said, "You're a better artist than I'll ever be." She beamed. From that moment on he was hers. She followed him like a shadow, peppering him with questions. "Where did you learn to fix stuff? Why do you talk so quiet? Do you like peanut butter or jelly more?" He answered every question, smiling softly. And for reasons he couldn't explain, her presence soothed him. She reminded him of himself. Not who he was now, but the little boy he used to be. The one who believed promises could be kept. The one who still thought someone would come back for him. One afternoon, Mike caught a group of boys struggling to reassemble a broken foosball table. They froze when he approached. He didn't lecture. He just picked up a screwdriver and asked, "Want to help me fix this the right way?" By the end of the hour, the table was working better than before. The boys looked at him with a new kind of respect. Not because he was strong, but because he didn't make them feel small. That night, Marcus sat alone in the maintenance shed, staring at a spreadsheet on his old tablet. It wasn't connected to anything. He kept it offline on purpose. Just rows and rows of numbers. Every broken pipe. Every faulty light. Every dollar this place needed to survive. It was worse than he thought. But he'd already decided. No one would know. Not Sarah. Not the kids. Just quiet acts of help. The next morning, Sarah walked into the pantry and stopped in her tracks. The shelves were full. Boxes of cereal. Fresh fruit. New cleaning supplies. She blinked, confused. She hadn't placed an order. There was no note. Just a delivery slip with no sender. The same thing happened the next week. New blankets arrived, thick, soft, perfectly folded. Then came the paint. And the toys. And a new water filter. Anonymous donations, the receipt said. Sarah asked around. None of the donors she knew had sent anything. Emma had her own theory. "It's the fixing fairy," she said matter-of-factly. Sarah raised an eyebrow. "The what?" "You know, like the tooth fairy. But for broken stuff." Sarah laughed, shaking her head. But the name stuck. Every time something new arrived, the kids would whisper, "The fixing fairy came again." Mike said nothing. He just kept showing up with a wrench and a calm smile. One night, Emma couldn't sleep. She found Mike sitting alone in the courtyard, fixing a loose wheel on a supply cart. She sat beside him, quiet for a long time. Then, "Do you ever miss your mom?" He froze for a second. Then looked at her. "Yeah," he said softly. "Every day." Emma nodded. "Me too. But I think, maybe we find new people who feel like home." Mike didn't speak. He just reached out, gently patting her shoulder. "Come on," he said. "Let's get you back to bed." She stood, yawning, and took his hand. That one small hand in his, that was the moment he realized something had shifted. He wasn't just here to make amends with Sarah. He was becoming part of something. And that terrified him more than any boardroom ever had. The next morning, Sarah found him repainting the hallway walls with two of the older kids. She stopped, arms crossed. "Who bought the paint?" she asked. Mike didn't look up. "Some donor," he said casually. She narrowed her eyes. "Funny how all the donors started being generous the moment you showed up." Mike smiled faintly. "Maybe I'm good luck." She tilted her head, trying to read him. "You know, they trust you. The kids." She nodded. "I've never seen Emma open up like that. Not since her parents died." He swallowed hard. "She's a special kid. She thinks you're a superhero. I'm just a guy who fixes things." She paused. "Maybe that's what heroes really are." For a second, something passed between them, unspoken but felt. Then a kid ran down the hall screaming about a clogged toilet, and the moment was gone. Mike grabbed his toolbox with a laugh. "Duty calls." Sarah watched him disappear down the hallway, surrounded by children. And for the first time she wondered, who was he really? And why did it feel like she'd known him before? The days passed faster than Marcus expected. Morning repairs turned into afternoon garden projects. Evening checklists bled into late-night tea on the back porch. And somewhere in the middle of all that, something began to shift. Between him and Sarah. Not romance. Not yet. But something quieter. A familiarity. A comfort. A wound that hadn't healed, but had stopped bleeding. They painted the hallway walls together, laughing when Emma dipped her hand in the paint and stamped it on Mike's shirt. They built shelves for the kids' library. They repaired the swing set together, Sarah holding the bolts while Mike tightened them from below. "Didn't expect you to be so handy," she teased one afternoon, wiping sweat from her brow. Mike smiled. "Didn't expect to be either." At night, after the kids were asleep, she sometimes joined him on the back steps with 2 mugs of cheap instant tea. No lights. No expectations. Just quiet. Sometimes they talked about the kids. Sometimes about the plumbing. Sometimes about themselves. That's when it got harder. Because every time she opened up, it was like peeling back a layer of something fragile. And every time Marcus wanted to say, "It's me," but he didn't. Couldn't. Not yet. One evening, she sat beside him in silence longer than usual. Her hands were wrapped around the mug, knuckles tight. Finally she spoke. "You ever have a best friend just disappear on you?" Marcus froze. He didn't look at her. But he felt it. Every word like a stone dropped in water. She stared ahead. "We were just kids. 9 maybe. He was my everything. Brave. Loud. Always got in trouble for sneaking snacks from the kitchen." A soft smile ghosted her face. "He promised he'd come back." "He didn't?" She shook her head. "Not a letter. Not a call. Nothing." "Maybe he couldn't," Marcus said quietly. "Maybe," she said. "But try telling that to a girl who waited by the gate every Sunday for a year." He said nothing. What could he say? "I hated him for a long time," she added. "Then I hated myself for still missing him." "Do you still?" he asked. She exhaled. "Sometimes. But it's not him I miss. It's who I was when he was around." Silence settled again, heavier than before. Then, "Sorry?" That came out of nowhere. "No," he said. It didn't. He wanted to reach for her hand. But stopped himself. Not yet. The next day, Sarah found him alone in the storage room, fixing a broken lamp. She leaned against the doorframe. "You're quiet today," she said. He didn't look up. "Didn't sleep well." She nodded. "You know, you don't have to fix everything around here." He smirked. "Too late." She tilted her head. "You're not just fixing lamps." Mike looked up then. "You're fixing things I didn't even realize were broken." The words caught him off guard. So did the look in her eyes, gentle, vulnerable. He looked away. "It's easier to fix things than people." Sarah smiled sadly. "You say that like someone who's tried." He didn't respond. But his silence said enough. Later that week, the kids had movie night in the common room. Sarah sat cross-legged on the floor with a bowl of popcorn. Mike leaned against the wall in the back watching, not the movie but her. Emma crawled into her lap halfway through. The way Sarah held her instinctively, it undid him. After the movie, as Sarah tucked the kids in, Mike went to the garden alone. The night air was cool. Stars overhead. Crickets chirping. And his chest, tight. He wasn't supposed to feel this close. He wasn't supposed to feel anything. But he did. For her. For Emma. For this place. Back inside, Sarah found him still awake, sitting on the kitchen counter eating leftover cereal. "You know that's for breakfast, right?" she teased. He smiled through a mouthful. "Emergency emotional support cereal." She laughed, grabbed a spoon and joined him. They sat there side by side eating cereal at midnight. The kind of moment that meant nothing. Until it did. "Promise me something," she said suddenly. He turned to her. "Don't just disappear." The air changed. His spoon paused mid-bite. "I'm not planning to." "You say that now." He looked at her then really looked. "I won't." She nodded almost imperceptibly. Then got up, rinsed her bowl, and left the kitchen without another word. Marcus stayed behind, staring at the empty spoon in his hand. And for the first time in years, he meant it. The letter came early. No return address. Just a white envelope slid under the front door. Sarah bent to pick it up, already dreading what she might find. Inside, 3 pages of legalese and a foreclosure notice. Total amount due, $498,320. She stood there in silence, staring at the number. Not even blinking. By afternoon she hadn't told anyone. But Mike could tell. She wasn't yelling at the broken vacuum. She wasn't scolding the kids for tracking mud in. She was quiet. Too quiet. He found her in the staff office, hunched over her desk. The envelope lay open beside her. "You okay?" he asked gently. She didn't look up. "I'm fine." "You're not." She sighed. And pushed the letter toward him. Mike didn't need to read it. He already knew what it was. But he did anyway. When he looked up, her eyes were distant. "I've tried everything," she whispered. "Every fundraiser. Every grant. Every favor I could call in. I even emptied my savings." He stared. "All of it?" She nodded. "This place is everything I have, Mike. I couldn't just let it fall apart." He stepped closer but didn't touch her. "And now? They're coming next month. If I can't pay by then, it's over." They sat outside on the back steps. It was almost sunset. Her voice was tired. "Sometimes I wonder if I'm crazy. Fighting for a place no one else seems to care about." "You're not crazy," he said. "You're brave." She gave a dry laugh. "Well, brave doesn't pay the mortgage." Silence. Then, "I'm going to find a way." She turned to him. "What?" "I'll help," he said. "I'll figure something out." "Mike, you don't have to do that." "I know. But I want to." She looked at him, really looked. And for the first time she didn't see a stranger. She saw someone who might actually stay. That night, as Sarah locked the front doors, she glanced back at the empty hallway. The paint on the walls still smelled new. But it felt like everything was slipping through her fingers. Upstairs, the kids were already asleep. Downstairs, the lights buzzed faintly. And out back, she could see Mike still working in the shed, alone, hunched over a broken pipe. Her chest tightened. She didn't know who he really was. But somehow, she trusted him. The email came at 2:03 a.m. Subject: Interesting new address, Marcus. No text. Just a photo. Grainy. Taken from a distance. But unmistakable. It was him, Mike, sweeping the front porch of the orphanage, hoodie up, sleeves rolled. Marcus stared at the image, blood draining from his face. Only one person would send that without saying a word. Victoria Sterling. By noon, he was standing across from her in a glass-walled corner office overlooking Manhattan. She looked as polished as ever, sharp suit, red nails, zero patience. "I expected more creativity," she said, pouring herself a drink. "No hello," he muttered. "I don't do greetings for liars." Marcus didn't flinch. Victoria circled behind her desk, holding her glass like a weapon. "You disappear for 2 weeks. Rumors swirl. And I find you playing janitor at some dying orphanage?" Her voice dripped with disbelief. He didn't respond. "Who is she?" Victoria asked, eyes narrowed. Marcus blinked. "What?" "Don't play dumb. There's always a woman when a man starts doing stupid things." He clenched his jaw. "She has nothing to do with this." "Oh, but she does," Victoria said. "Because you're making decisions with your heart now. And hearts get men killed." Marcus stepped forward. "This is none of your business." Victoria laughed. "When you're about to close the biggest merger of the year with my name on it, everything is my business." "I'm not backing out." "Really?" "Because I spoke to our lawyers this morning. If you're out of the country longer than 14 days without board approval, the clause kicks in." Marcus's silence said enough. She walked closer. "I could go public, you know. Release that photo. Leak that you've been missing meetings to play handyman in some backwater town." "Go ahead," he said, tone low. Victoria leaned in. "But I won't. Not yet." He frowned. "What do you want?" "I want you to cancel the Skybridge deal." Marcus stiffened. "That deal's clean. Profitable. There's no reason to kill it." "There's one," she smiled coldly. "It cuts me out." He shook his head. "You're insane." "No. I'm a businesswoman. And I don't let emotions compromise strategy." She sipped her drink. "You, on the other hand, are starting to forget who you are." "I know exactly who I am," he said. "Then prove it. Walk away from the orphanage. Kill the deal. And get back to the top where you belong." He didn't answer. She tilted her head. You're losing your edge, Marcus. And in our world, that's fatal. That night, Marcus sat on the roof of the shed, staring at the stars. Below him, Sarah was walking Emma to her room. He could hear their laughter. It hit harder than Victoria's threats. He pulled out his phone. Opened the photo. His reflection stared back, hoodie, mop in hand, smiling faintly. He barely recognized that man. But he liked him. For the first time in a decade, he liked who he was becoming. Victoria could take his reputation. She could ruin the deal. But she couldn't rewrite what mattered. The people. The promise. And Sarah. It started with a school project. The assignment was simple: Google a famous person and present 5 fun facts. Emma chose the topic at random. She didn't even like tech CEOs. But when she typed Marcus Hale into the search bar, her fingers froze. Because the first image that popped up was Mike. Same eyes. Same jawline. Just cleaner. Sharper. Richer. Emma leaned in, squinting. It was him. Her heart pounded. She clicked the next photo. And another. Then a headline. TechVision founder still missing after vanishing mid-merger talks. That night, Emma couldn't sleep. She stared at the ceiling, clutching her tablet. Should she tell someone? Would he get in trouble? Would they take him away? The next morning, she pulled 2 kids aside, Tyler, age 10, and Grace, 9. They met behind the garden shed, the unofficial secret base. Emma showed them the photos. Tyler's mouth dropped. That's Mr. Mike. Grace gasped. He's like, super rich? Emma nodded slowly. But he didn't act rich. No, Grace agreed. He fixed my bookshelf. A billionaire wouldn't do that. They sat in silence. Then Tyler whispered, Do you think Miss Sarah knows? Emma frowned. No. She would have freaked out. Grace looked nervous. Should we tell her? Emma shook her head. Not yet. Over the next few days, the kids watched Marcus more closely. They noticed small things now. The way he paused before answering questions. The expensive watch he thought no one saw. The way he looked at Sarah, like he was holding back a secret. They saw him carry extra groceries into the pantry without saying a word. They saw the way he helped fix a girl's wheelchair without asking for thanks. He wasn't just pretending. He cared. Finally, one evening, the 3 kids gathered in the treehouse and made a decision. He should be the one to tell her, Emma said firmly. But he's scared, Grace added. So we help him, Tyler grinned. Emma pulled out a notebook. They started planning. Operation, tell the truth. Step 1, don't blow his cover. Step 2, make him feel safe. Step 3, remind him why she needs to know. The next morning, Emma found Marcus fixing a broken bench. She sat next to him, swinging her legs. Hey, Mike. He looked up. Yeah. Do you believe people can change? He paused. I think some people are trying every day. She smiled. Good. Then skipped away. Later that day, Grace accidentally left a book on Marcus's bed. The truth always comes out, and that's okay. He returned it to her without a word, but his expression said everything. That night, Tyler brought Marcus a cup of tea and sat beside him. My dad used to lie a lot, Tyler said. Always said it was to protect us. Marcus glanced at him. But I think the truth protects better. They sat in silence. Then Marcus whispered, Thanks, kid. 3 days later, Emma slipped a hand-drawn card under Marcus's door. On the front, a cartoon of Mike holding hands with Sarah. Inside, sometimes the bravest thing is being honest. No name. Just a tiny heart in the corner. Marcus held it in his hand for a long time. He didn't speak. But he didn't throw it away. That weekend, during movie night, Sarah stepped away to answer a call. The kids crowded around Marcus. Emma leaned in. We know who you are, she whispered. Marcus froze. Tyler added, We're not mad. Grace nodded. We like you even more now. Emma met his eyes. But she deserves to know. From you. Marcus felt his throat tighten. He looked at their faces, earnest, unafraid. And he realized something. They weren't trying to trap him. They were trying to save him. He exhaled. And nodded. Okay, he said. I'll tell her. Emma smiled. Good. We'll help. It was supposed to be a normal afternoon. Kids were napping. Sarah was folding laundry. And Marcus had slipped outside to take a quiet call. He stood behind the storage shed, phone pressed to his ear. His voice was calm but clipped. I'm still off-grid, he said. No, they think I'm a handyman. Boss. Yes, I'm watching the Skybridge situation. Just send the final contract to my Hale Global inbox. Behind him. Russell. He turned sharply. Sarah stood a few feet away holding a box of supplies. Eyes locked on his. She didn't say a word. He lowered the phone, heart suddenly in his throat. Sarah. She stepped closer slowly. Hale Global? He blinked. You're applying for a job? He nodded quickly. Yes. I've been looking into some things. Just in case. Her tone sharpened. Skybridge. He hesitated. It's one of the companies I talked to. Sarah folded her arms. And your real name, is it Mike? A pause too long. He looked her in the eyes. I'm not ready to answer that yet. She stared at him. For a long time. Then said nothing. Just turned and walked away. That night, Marcus sat alone in the shed. Phone in his hand. Staring at nothing. Emma's card sat tucked in his back pocket. The words rang in his head. Sometimes the bravest thing is being honest. He closed his eyes. His time was running out. And the truth? It was no longer just a choice. It was a storm heading straight toward him. The black car pulled into the gravel driveway just past noon. It didn't belong. Too sleek. Too silent. Too cold. Marcus saw it first from the window of the shed. His heart stopped. He didn't need to see her face to know who it was. Victoria Sterling always arrived like a storm in a designer coat. She stepped out, sunglasses on, heels clicking against the cracked pavement. In her hand, a sleek leather folder. In the other, her signature smirk. Sarah was in the front office, sorting through donation records when the door opened. Can I help you? She asked without looking up. Yes, I believe you can, Victoria said smoothly. Sarah looked up. Everything about the woman screamed corporate. Sharp lines, expensive fabric, and power. I'm from the board of one of your donor affiliates, Victoria said, walking in like she owned the place. I came to hand-deliver this. She slid the folder onto the desk. Sarah opened it slowly. Inside, foreclosure papers. A different bank. A tighter deadline. Her face drained of color. I thought we had another month. You thought wrong, Victoria said. Your new deadline is 5 days from now. Sarah's breath caught. And unfortunately, your anonymous savior may not be as reliable as you think. She turned as if just noticing Marcus stepping into the room. Well, she said brightly. Speak of the devil. Sarah's eyes shifted. Marcus froze in the doorway. Victoria sauntered over, tapping her nails against the folder. You didn't tell her? She said, mock surprise in her voice. Didn't mention you're not Mike the handyman? Didn't mention you're actually Marcus Hale, tech billionaire and corporate magician? The room fell into silence. Sarah looked at him. Art. You lied to me, she said. He opened his mouth. Nothing came out. I asked you yesterday, she said, voice shaking. And you still lied. Marcus stepped forward. I wasn't ready. No, she cut in. You didn't trust me. Victoria smiled. Oh, I love this part. Marcus turned to her, eyes cold. Get out. I'm not done. You are now. Sarah didn't move. Her voice was quieter now. You could have told me. I was going to. When? He looked at her. Really looked. When it was safe. She swallowed. But this place was never about safety, Marcus. It was about honesty. I let you in. The kids let you in. She backed away, tears rising. And the whole time you were someone else. Marcus stepped forward, desperate. I was always me. Not the part that mattered. She turned to Victoria. You've done what you came for. Now leave. Victoria raised her hands in mock surrender. Fine. My work here is done. She turned to Marcus one last time. I warned you, hearts make men weak. Then she walked out. The door clicked shut behind her. Sarah stood still, then whispered, "You need to go." Marcus blinked. "Sarah." She didn't look at him. Her voice broke. "Please. Just go." Outside, the wind picked up. Leaves scattered across the yard. Marcus stood on the porch steps for a long moment, then turned and walked away. The house felt too quiet. Even with kids laughing faintly upstairs, Sarah couldn't shake the emptiness. Marcus was gone, and somehow the air felt thinner without him. She found herself in the old supply room, the one no one really used anymore. She didn't know why she went in, maybe instinct. Maybe she just needed a place to fall apart privately. She sat down on an old wooden stool and ran her hands along the dusty shelf. And there it was, a small metal box, tucked behind cleaning rags and broken binders. Something about it pulled her in. She lifted it gently, blew off the dust, and opened it. Inside, folded papers. Letters. Some yellowed at the edges, others barely creased. All addressed in the same handwriting. To Sarah. Her hands trembled. She picked one up. "Dear Sarah. Today was the first day in the new house. It's big. Too big. It doesn't smell like anything familiar. I miss the way you used to laugh at my dumb jokes. I miss the garden swing. I miss you." She blinked. Flipped to the next one. "Dear Sarah. They told me I was lucky. But how can I be lucky when they didn't take you too? They said not to write, that it would only make it harder. But not writing feels worse." Tears blurred her vision. She pulled out another. "Dear Sarah. I don't know when I'll be back. But I promised you I would. Even if it takes years. Even if I'm someone else by then. I'll find you. I swear." Her breath caught. The next one was dated only months before he returned. "Dear Sarah. I've built a life full of noise. But it's quiet without you. I saw a news story about the orphanage. You were in the picture. You still smile the same way. I think I'm ready to come back now." The letters slipped from her hands. She covered her mouth, shaking. All this time she thought he had forgotten her, abandoned her. But the truth had been here, waiting in a box. In words never spoken. In feelings never erased. She stayed there for a long time. Reading. Crying. Smiling between tears. Later that evening she walked outside. The air smelled like rain even though the skies were clear. She looked at the oak tree. Their tree. The one with initials carved deep into the bark. S+M. She closed her eyes and whispered, "I didn't forget either." The press conference was short, deliberate, and unlike anything Marcus had ever done before. He stood alone at the podium. No board members, no handlers, no sleek video montage behind him. Just a man in a navy suit and a microphone. "I built a company from nothing," he began. "A company that gave me power, access, and enough money to silence almost any problem. But no amount of money can buy back lost time." He paused, letting the words settle. "I'm donating $10 million to support struggling orphanages across the country." The reporters shifted in their seats. He continued. "And I'm starting with the place that made me who I am, Silverwood Children's Home." Gasp. Cameras clicked. And then, softly, he smiled. "I used to live there." The footage aired everywhere within hours. Marcus Hale, the billionaire recluse, finally showing his face and his past. It hit headlines like a thunderclap. But he didn't stay for the interviews. He had one stop left to make. He arrived at Silverwood just after sunset, wearing no tie, no security, just him, and the check. $10 million. He stepped through the front gates, heart pounding harder than any press event could have made it. Inside, the house was quiet. Too quiet. He found Emma in the common room, curled up on the couch. Her eyes lit up the second she saw him. "Mike." He smiled. She ran over and hugged him tight. "I knew you'd come back." He knelt to her level. "Where's Sarah?" Emma's face fell slightly. "She left this morning." He blinked. "Left?" She didn't say much. Just packed a bag. Emma handed him an envelope. "It's for you." He took it with trembling fingers. Sat down. Opened it. "Marcus, I saw the news. I saw you. And I saw the man you've become. Truth is, I never stopped hoping you'd come back. But when you did, I didn't recognize you. Not because of your face but because of the walls you built around yourself. I needed the truth. And now that I have it, I realize I need time too. Not to run away. Just to breathe. To let everything settle. I hope you understand, Sarah. He folded the letter. Held it in both hands. And for the first time in weeks, he didn't feel lost. Just still. He looked at Emma. Do you know where she went? Emma shook her head. But she said she'd be back. Marcus nodded. Then I'll wait. Marcus searched everywhere. He checked every park in town. The old train station. The community center. The lake where they used to sneak off as kids. He even went by her old foster home just in case. Everywhere he went the answer was the same. She's not here. He slept in his car that night. Rain tapped gently against the windshield. He held Sarah's letter in his hand like a compass. Every word pointed backward, to memory not logic, to something deeper than maps. Then he remembered. The tree. Their tree. The one behind the old barn on Hillcrest Road. Where two kids once carved their names into bark. S+M. He started the engine. The road was half paved, the gravel loud beneath his tires. Trees thickened on both sides. And there, just before the clearing, he saw it. The oak. Still standing. Still wide. Still strong. And beneath it, a figure. Sitting quietly at the base, arms wrapped around her knees. Sarah. Sarah didn't move when Marcus approached. She heard his steps. Recognized the rhythm. But didn't turn around. He stopped a few feet away. For a moment all he could do was look. At her. At the tree. At the years between them. Then he finally spoke. I didn't expect you to be here. She replied without looking. Neither did I. A beat. Then she added. But something pulled me back. He stepped closer slowly. I've been looking for you. I know. Her voice was calm. Almost too calm. I saw the press conference. He swallowed. I meant every word. Sarah turned her head slightly, not quite facing him. You should have told me. I was scared. Of me. Of breaking what was already fragile. She finally turned to face him. Her eyes held no anger. Just wait. And what do you think you broke instead? He couldn't answer. She stood. Dusted off her hands. You left. I was taken. That's not the same. I was a kid, Sarah. So was I. Her voice cracked. I waited for you. I know. And when you came back, I didn't even recognize you. Marcus stepped forward. Softly. I didn't recognize myself either. Pause. Then. I kept the letters. She blinked. I found them. He nodded. I wrote them because it was the only way I knew how to hold on to you. Her expression shifted. Less pain. More quiet. I read them all. Marcus's voice dropped. I never stopped caring. I know. She looked down. To be honest, I don't know what hurts more, losing you back then or letting you back in now. He didn't speak. Didn't push. He waited. And after a moment she stepped closer. Do you regret coming back? He shook his head. Not for a second. She nodded. Then reached out. And pulled him into an embrace. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't perfect. But it was real. He held her tightly and she didn't pull away. The years between them folded in. The silence, the questions, the pain, it all softened. And behind a cluster of trees barely visible, 3 small figures watched from a distance. Emma whispered. Told you they'd be okay. Tyler elbowed her, grinning. They're so slow. Grace giggled. They're old. But Sarah and Marcus didn't hear them. They stood under the tree that held their past. And finally made peace with the present. 1 year later. The orphanage looked different now. Still humble. Still home. But brighter. The front porch had been rebuilt. The garden bloomed in neat rows. There was a new swing set, painted yellow, Emma's favorite. And above the entry gate, a wooden sign. The Marcus and Sarah Foundation. Home. Oh, always. Inside, laughter echoed down the halls. Emma helped tie little Grace's ribbon. Tyler tried and failed to button his shirt properly. Balloons floated above. White chairs filled the backyard. A soft melody played from an old speaker. Sarah stepped out in a simple flowing white dress. Her smile was quiet, her eyes bright. Marcus stood at the archway. No tux. Just a light gray suit. His tie, slightly crooked. He didn't care. When she reached him he whispered, "You're exactly where you're supposed to be." She smiled. "So are you." They said their vows under the oak tree. The same tree that once held two scared kids. Now it stood as witness to something bigger. A promise kept. A home reclaimed. And as Sarah tossed her bouquet, it soared high, dipped once, and landed in Emma's hands. The kids erupted in cheers. Emma blushed deep red. Marcus leaned over and whispered to her. "No pressure." She grinned. "I've got time." As the music rose, laughter swirled with sunlight. Families danced. Children ran. Sarah rested her head on Marcus's shoulder. He kissed her forehead and whispered, "Thank you for waiting." She smiled. "I always knew you'd come back." Sometimes the greatest love stories begin with a promise kept, no matter how long it takes. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone you believe in. And don't forget to subscribe to Soul Tales for more stories that remind us what truly matters.